Ladies and gentlemen, to whom can you turn for reliable, objective news reporting? It becomes more difficult as the days, the months, the years pass, with the mainstream media, as they're often called, in the bag for someone. Certainly not for you, the consumer, the person looking for objective news reporting to learn about what's happening in the world each and every day. And today I turn to an article that really is a bit annoying, and that's why I'm going to discuss it very briefly here. This appeared in the USA Today, an article about an interview with Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, by Catherine Herridge. Catherine Herridge, the former Fox News Channel national security journalist, now working for CBS News. You know CBS News, the once and longtime home of Dan Blather, the man who fabricated news about George Walker Bush in an effort to change the 2004 election. Fabricated an entire story about him having gotten out of Vietnam service. That's the same CBS News, the home of Dan Blather. Yes, he doesn't work there anymore, but it took an act of God to get the man fired from the network after his fraud. And people still listen to Dan Blather. Anyway, today's article is by Janine Santucci. This was published on the 14th of July at 8:43 in the evening. So last night on Bastille Day here, Bastille Day in France, it was 14th July here in the U.S., and it was updated again this morning at 6:38 Eastern Standard Time. And in this article, it says, Trump says more white people are killed by police while studies show black people are more likely to be killed. Yeah? And what's exactly your point here? Two completely different facts. And why is that the headline article? Is this clickbait? Or is this yet another misleading, disingenuous article from the mainstream media? Now, the USA Today is owned by Gannett, a news organization that has progressively, no pun intended, progressively become less reliable over the decades. It's a long time removed from the days of Al Neuharth and his interesting op-eds, although slightly left of center, at least honest. The honesty is long gone from this newspaper, and let's talk about this. Why would you run this story? Well, there was an interview conducted by Catherine Herridge on CBS News. And as a result of this article, I went and looked up the video on CBS News, and I'll have a discussion about that here shortly. But let's talk about this. President Donald Trump claimed, as if it's not supported by factual evidence. President Donald Trump claimed Tuesday that more, and they put in quotes, more white people die at the hands of police despite studies that show black people are more likely to be killed by law enforcement. Now, I'm going to discuss something about that coming up here shortly because of the way that both groups are depicted in this article. It's also disingenuous, and it's a distortion of the English language, at least in the United States. In an interview at the White House, CBS News, Catherine Herridge just brought up George Floyd, the black man who died, pleading for breath earlier this month. In Minneapolis, a police officer knelt on his back. Well, it wasn't earlier this month. That was last month. It wasn't July. Why are African Americans still dying at the hands of law enforcement in this country? Catherine Herridge asked Donald Trump. Trump's response was, so are white people. So are white people. What a terrible question to ask. So are white people. More white people, by the way, more white people. Now, the whole point of this article, presumably, is to refute Donald Trump's claims when actually stating factual information, ladies and gentlemen. And in fact, this story itself, as many disingenuous mainstream media articles does, later reveals the facts after misleading the public who read the article, knowing full well that people tend to read the front page or the first couple paragraphs of articles, and the percentage of people who actually read the entire article is far lower. And so they hide the truth further down the article, and then they get away with saying, well, we reported the facts, when they distorted the facts, and that's what's going on here. Obfuscation. Obfuscation is the word of the day for the mainstream media, distorting things. The action of making something obscure, unclear, or unintelligible. And that's what happens here in this article in the USA Today by Janine Santucci. Black people are killed in police encounters at higher rates than white people. Multiple studies have confirmed. Well, no one's disputing that. That wasn't the question. That wasn't the statement. Donald Trump never said that that wasn't the case. So why are you raising this issue? It's not a surprise. 226 million white people in this country, 45 million black people in this country. Black men are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police than white men, according to University of Michigan, Rutgers University of Washington University study released last year. Whoop-de-doo! Thank you so much for that information. We're well aware of this. We're well aware of this. How is it germane to the topic? What does it matter? The death of one person in police custody is unfortunate. Why are you racializing this issue here? USA Today. The study found that about 100 black men and boys per 100,000 and 39 white men and boys per 100,000 are killed by police during their lifetimes. A Harvard analysis of deaths by police from 2013 to 2017 published last year found black men are more than 3 times likely to die than white men are more than 3 times more likely than white men to be killed by police. Yes, that's not new. It's not news. It's factual. It's also not germane. It's not the argument that Donald Trump was making. So why is it in this news article? Other than to damage Donald Trump, which is the intent, obviously. That's the purpose of this article. Not to report the news. This is an op-ed piece disguised as news. Does it say op-ed on here? It does not. It does not say. It says politics, ladies and gentlemen. The politics section of the newspaper, not the op-ed section. This is opinion. Now, here's where the truth comes out. By numbers alone, a Washington Post analysis found that in about 5 years of police shooting data, notice it's only shooting data, not deaths in police custody. George Floyd wasn't shot. So what does this have to do with the topic at hand? Catherine Heritage asked about the incident from George Floyd and people being killed in police custody. Killed, not shot. Cherry-picking data. The numbers are higher than this, but let's just go with those shot in interactions with the police from the Washington Post analysis. Over 5 years, doesn't give the 5 years. Presumably it's the most recent 5 years, 2013 to 2017 or 2018, something like that. 2,495 white people, 1,301 black people, and 907 Hispanic people were shot and killed by police. Now, the intention of this is to distort the argument. Nearly twice as many whites were killed in police encounters through shootings than black Americans. So why did Catherine Heritage ask the question, why are black Americans still being killed by the police? What about Hispanic Americans? What about white Americans? Now here's the most disgusting, vile, race-baiting merchant nonsense going on right here. In this article, in the first sentence, and now here in the first paragraph, and now here again, we see something that's taking place here. In the very first paragraph, President Donald Trump claimed, no, he stated a fact, Ms. Santucci, stated a fact. Find the FBI's records on this, the national data available. He stated a fact. He didn't make a claim. Tuesday that more white people died at the hands of police, despite studies that show more black people. Now, what am I talking about? There and also on the second page when we talk about the number of whites, the number of blacks, the number of Hispanics who've been killed, white is listed as a color, not a proper noun. It is not capitalized. Black is capitalized. Black is also a color, but it's capitalized. Maybe I'm nitpicking, except I'm not. On the second page, white people, once again, lowercase, black people, uppercase, and Hispanic, uppercase. If anything, in proper English, the only one of those that should be capitalized would be Hispanic. It's an actual proper noun. Black and white are colors. They're descriptors. They're adjectives. They're used to describe things. If you want to use them as a proper noun, then the correct way in this language is to capitalize both white and black. But no, because this is an effort to belittle and demean 226 million people who identify as white. No, not as lampshades. They identify as white, ladies and gentlemen. This is disgraceful. This isn't reporting. This is garbage. It's disgusting. Meant to bifurcate and divide society on a racial basis. An artificial term at that, race. We're all Homo sapiens, ladies and gentlemen. The differences in our DNA are infinitesimal. Go back 10, 12, 20 generations and you find that all of our cousins were knocking boots with each other. So just get a grip on yourselves here. Very disturbing. Trump's assertion that more white people are killed by police than black people is true only when the proportion of those killed to the overall population of white and black people in the country is not taken into account. Are you serious? You actually published this story. Do you have editors at this newspaper? Do they do their job? This isn't news. You contort the story to achieve a narrative which is dishonest. The bottom line is that less than 1,000 Americans die in police custody each and every year as a consequence of their interactions with law enforcement. Now, why do more black men die than Hispanics as a proportion? By the way, they don't focus on that. More blacks die than Asians or Hispanics as well as whites as a proportion of the population. Why is that? Could it be perhaps that more black men live in urban centers, in neighborhoods and districts where crime is higher? Could it be that 78% of black children are born to out-of-wedlock parents and raised predominantly by single parents or grandparents? Now, that's not an attack on black society, black culture. The same holds true across the spectrum. These days, 45% of Hispanic children are born out of wedlock. 25% of white children born out of wedlock, and about 10% of Asians. Go back 50 years and those figures were demonstrably lower. There was a nuclear family. There wasn't an assault on traditional family values and the importance of raising children in a two-parent family. The culture wars started in the 1960s about a bunch of shameful, disgusting radicals have continued. And while people thought perhaps they went away in the 1980s and maybe even in the 1990s, it never went away. And it's stronger than ever today. And this is the outcome of it. We see this vile reporting, disgusting effort to divide this country. Ladies and gentlemen, to be an American is not to be white or black or Asian or green or from Alpha Centauri. To be an American is to accept the cultural values, the mores, the norms of this society, its history, its heritage. Is it all perfect? Of course not. No nation is perfect. Every nation has something they have shame over. But this is the best experiment in governance to date in the history of mankind. The fairest, the most just. And a society that doesn't remotely resemble the nonsense that's being spewed by people like the USA Today, intentionally distorting what's going on to confuse people about the reality. So apparently, it doesn't matter that 2,495 white people have been killed, shot by police in 5 years. That doesn't matter. Or that 907 Hispanic people were shot by police. Only the fact that Donald Trump claimed, when he actually made a factual statement, that more white people were killed. Talk about dog whistles. Talk about dog whistles. Here's your dog whistle right here. This distortions and lies. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, because I saw this article in USA Today, I was curious about Catherine Heritage's interview. I think she's a fine journalist, and she's done an amazing job. On Fox, she was one of the best journalists who went to the facts, avoided hyperbole, and avoided opinions when she reported the news as a news reporter journalist, broadcast journalist. I've not watched her at CBS. This is the first time I've watched her. Now, I find the question to be ludicrous, too. Why would you ask that question? Unless you're intentionally trying to get clickbait and start something. So I'm disappointed in that question. Why don't you ask the question, what about people dying at the hands of law enforcement? That's a legitimate question. If you want to say that there's a higher proportion of black men dying at the hands of law enforcement, any ideas why that is? Now, that's a fair question, but not the question she posed. So I went to watch this. I searched and I went online and I found CBS News. This has 2.7 million subscribers to their channel on YouTube. Congratulations, CBS. That's a lot more than I've got. And they ran an article with the title, the video, Trump discusses police killings, Confederate flags, China in schools. Now, that to me sounds like an interview. And below the descriptions, in an interview with CBS News, Catherine Heritage weighed in on police killings, his administration's response, yada, yada, yada. Excellent. So I think I'm going to see the interview, only I don't. It's clickbait. I tuned in to watch this video. It's only 7 minutes. And in this video, which is running about 869 likes and 761 dislikes, so I'm guessing left and right people have tuned in and just clicked on the up or down based on their worldview in many cases, not all. But this 7+ minute video is not Donald Trump being interviewed, despite the title that CBS News puts up there. It is not that at all. It's clickbait, ladies and gentlemen. It is little snippets of his interview. And Catherine Heritage is being interviewed by another CBS reporter or journalist or talk show host. I don't know what she is. She's interviewing Catherine Heritage about the interview. So this is an interview about the interview with clips of the interview with Donald Trump stuck in this interview with Catherine Heritage. Yeah, not the interview with Donald Trump, which is what I was hoping to see. And you notice that they parse things. So even the article here hides the truth down below. So it talks about Confederate flags. The USA Today article did not focus on that, but does report on it. But that's stuck up here. Talks about Confederate flags. And in his interview, which they get around to, Donald Trump here, well, actually, they do talk about here. In the USA Today, NASCAR recently banned the display of Confederate flags at its events, a move that Trump has criticized. Trump has also said he's opposed to renaming military bases that are named for Confederate military leaders, a stance that some Republicans who are typically yada, yada. Is this in the interview? I don't know because I try to watch it on CBS and I have to tune in for the evening news program. And I don't see that video now available, the whole interview. I just see pieces of it. So I don't know if he said that during the interview. These are things that are from previous discussions. So in this, he also says, Trump says repeatedly, and I saw this in the clip in CBS, all I say is freedom of speech. It's very simple. My attitude is freedom of speech, very strong views on the Confederate flag. With me, it's freedom of speech, very simple. Like it, don't like it, it's freedom of speech. Asked if he would be comfortable with his supporters displaying the flag at political events, Trump said, it depends on what your definition is, but I'm comfortable with freedom of speech. Well, I'll hold my views on what Trump said out of the conversation because that's not germane at the moment. But he did say the following, and there's no mention of this, and this I do take issue with. I just think it's freedom of speech. Whether it's freedom of speech, whether it's Confederate flags or Black Lives Matter or anything else you want to talk about, it's freedom of speech. So did Donald Trump just promote Black Lives Matter? Did he promote Confederate flags? No, he didn't promote either. Yet there's no discussion of him speaking positively about people supporting Black Lives Matter having their freedom of speech. Anyway, the disingenuous news media. It's vile. It's disgusting. This article in USA Today, Trump says more white people are killed by police while studies show black people are more likely to be killed. So what? Address the underlying issues. Don't sit here and play stump the chump and try to go after the sitting president of the United States over nonsense like this. The gentleman does have shortcomings. Go after his legitimate shortcomings. Or go talk to Sleepy Joe Biden about his plagiarism or his bizarre affection for young children and women, touching them all the time. Or the billion-dollar contract that his corrupt, drug-using, disgraced, kicked out of the military son got from China. Or his dealings in the Ukraine. Let's do some real news, some real journalism. If you're going to challenge Trump for saying that he says more white people are killed by police, then challenge that. And you'll be wrong because it's factual. Ladies and gentlemen, this entire situation is disturbing. This country is in the crapper. Where are the leaders? Where are our civic leaders? Where are our corporate leaders? Why aren't people standing up to this white, black, Asian, Hispanic, to this nonsense and the distortions in the media? There's plenty that you can complain about Donald Trump, but not what you see in the media because this is their agenda. I hope you found this thought-provoking. Maybe it triggered you, maybe it didn't. If you liked it, please feel free to subscribe to my channel, Chris White Africa. Check us out. Leave comments. I try to read all comments. And smash the like button if you found this in the least bit interesting. I thank you for your time. God bless America.